A brazen assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at his West Palm Beach golf course last Sunday has sent shockwaves across the political landscape, reigniting a contentious debate over U.S. involvement in Ukraine's war with Russia. Ryan Wesley Routh, the 58-year-old suspect currently in custody, has drawn new attention to the question of whether Ukraine, or its leadership, might have played a role in this attack. Ruth, known for his active support of Ukraine, had previously boasted about recruiting mercenaries for the Ukrainian army. His involvement with the International Legion Defense of Ukraine and past comments to media outlets, including the New York Times, only deepen the complexity of the case. In a March 2023 interview, Ruth detailed his efforts to enlist Afghan soldiers who had fled the Taliban, aiming to bolster Ukraine's defense against Russian forces. While Ruth's motivations remain under investigation, the political stakes surrounding the attempt on Trump's life have escalated dramatically. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chair of Russia's Security Council and an ardent supporter of President Vladimir Putin, stoked international intrigue this week by insinuating that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's regime could have had a direct hand in orchestrating the assassination attempt. In a cryptic statement on social media, Medvedev asked, "What would happen if it turned out that the failed new Trump shooter who recruited mercenaries for the Ukrainian army was himself hired by the neo-Nazi regime in Kiev for this assassination attempt?" Such allegations, unproven but inflammatory, have been dismissed by US officials as Russian propaganda aimed at destabilizing domestic politics in the United States. Nonetheless, they have opened a broader conversation about Ukraine's role in US political life, with Trump's critical stance on US military aid to Ukraine offering fertile ground for speculate. Ruth's public statements in support of Ukraine further fuel the growing controversy. In a 2022 interview with Newsweek Romania, he passionately described his involvement with Ukraine as a good versus evil battle, likening it to a Hollywood tale where Ukraine represented the forces of good. His online presence, monitored closely by investigators, reveals a consistent pattern: a deep engagement with pro-Ukrainian causes, including self-proclaimed efforts to recruit fighters to Ukraine's front lines. CNN's chief law enforcement analyst John Miller reported Sunday that Ruth's social media accounts focused on his self-proclaimed involvement in the war in Ukraine. Ruth allegedly spent several months in Ukraine during 2022, where he claims to have fought against Russian forces. Despite these revelations, there is no concrete evidence to support the notion that Ruth acted on orders from Kyiv, or that the Ukrainian government was involved in the plot. US intelligence agencies have not corroborated Medvedev's claims, but the mere suggestion of Ukraine's involvement has fueled the ongoing debate over US support for the country. Complicating the narrative is the strained relationship between Trump and President Zelensky. Trump has repeatedly lambasted the Biden administration for its extensive financial and military support to Ukraine, promising at a recent campaign rally in Detroit that he would settle the conflict long before taking office if re-elected. Trump has also cast doubt on Zelensky's motives, accusing him of being a shrewd operator who capitalized on US generosity. At the Turning Point USA event, Trump went as far as to call Zelensky the greatest salesman of any politician that's ever lived, referencing his ability to secure billions in US aid.
Although I think Zelensky is maybe the greatest salesman of any politician that's ever lived. Every time he comes to our country, he walks away with $60 billion.
These comments were laced with inaccuracies President Biden signed a foreign aid package containing $61 billion for Ukraine back in April, but they highlighted Trump's skepticism toward continued U.S. involvement in the conflict. His stance has found favor with a growing number of Republicans who are becoming increasingly wary of extending support to Ukraine. For Russia, the attack on Trump could serve a dual purpose. First, it disrupts U.S. politics at a critical moment, with the 2024 presidential race heating up. Second, it further sows doubt about Ukraine's leadership and trustworthiness. Medvedev's insinuations align with Russia's long-running efforts to discredit Zelensky's government, painting it as a corrupt neo-Nazi regime that should not be trusted by the West. The timing of the assassination attempt and the ensuing conspiracy theories could not be more significant. Trump's potential return to the White House in 2025 would likely upend U.S. foreign policy in Europe, shifting focus away from Ukraine's defense against Russia. With that in mind, Moscow's efforts to influence the U.S. narrative around Ukraine have taken on renewed urgency. As the investigation into Ruth's motivations continues, it remains to be seen how this narrative will evolve. The idea that Zelensky, or any faction within Ukraine, could be linked to the attempt on Trump's life seems far-fetched to many. But in the murky world of geopolitics, even unsubstantiated claims can have long-lasting effects. For now, the story serves as a stark reminder of how deeply entangled U.S. domestic politics has become with the conflict in Ukraine. And as the November election approaches, any suggestion of foreign interference, real or imagined, will only heighten tensions in an already polarized country.